So, remember this. This was back in 26th of February. This was in the Canary by friend of the show and my good mate Mohammed El-Matsi. Demonstrators once again demand the Bank of England return, quote, stolen Venezuelan gold. Remember, this is around the same time as Richard Branson was, he held a concert for these starving people in Venezuela. We withheld Venezuela's gold. They've got some gold in the Bank of England. We withheld it. We said, no, you can't have that gold, Maduro, because we recognise Guaido as the president, this guy that I think only 18% of Venezuelans had heard who he was when the United States said, yeah, he's your president now. And this stupid coup attempt. Well, Richard Branson, as it says here in CNN, he hoped a concert would persuade the Venezuelan military to open the border. You'll remember this. Maduro obviously said, no, this guy can't be president, and you're certainly not going to let Elliot Abrams in with his humanitarian aid from the United States, which is basically full of guns and bombs and shit that you're going to arm militia in this country to overthrow us. No, you can't. We'll let in the aid from elsewhere, which they did. They let in the aid from elsewhere in other countries, but not from America, because Elliot Abrams, well, yeah, he'd done that before in the 1980s. I think he was in Nicaragua, got found guilty of lying about it, and then pardoned by George Bush Senior for it. George Bush Senior, yeah. Intelligence services as well. Venezuela made mistakes with their economy, and when I say mistakes, I mean, they fell into traps by Saudi Arabia and America because they overproduced oil and raised the price of oil, etc. And Venezuela hadn't got enough in reserve to be able to cope for it. So Richard Branson hoped a concert would persuade the Venezuelan military to let this aid in from America. This aid that was come on, Richard, you dumbass. I'm going to read this, and this is from a few months ago. Honestly, there's a reason I'm doing this. There's a reason I'm going over this old ground. You're going to love it. But it says this billionaire businessman Richard Branson says he hopes his Live Aid-inspired concert to raise funds for the Venezuelans will persuade members of the country's military to defy President Maduro and allow humanitarian aid to cross the border. They were allowing humanitarian aid to cross the border, Venezuela were. Quite happily allowing humanitarian aid from China and Russia and from the UN. No problem at all. It was the humanitarian aid from America. They didn't want to come in, as I reported at the time, because that's the stuff that Elliot Abrams was overseeing, that he was trying to guns and bombs and overthrow. You can see where I'm going here. Richard Branson couldn't. Branson, who will host the Venezuela Live Aid Live, oh, it's not Live Aid, it's Venezuela Aid Live, on Friday, this was from, what was it, February 22nd, it's updated on February 22nd anyway, from Cucuta, said that he is aiming to raise about $100 million to buy food and medicine essential supplies for the country, which is gripped by a political and humanitarian crisis. Yes, humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian crisis. I'll get to why it's a humanitarian crisis and why it's a bigger humanitarian crisis than it really should be in a second. But I just want to go over this article from the CNN. Remember this concert that Richard Branson held. This event will feature performances. This event will feature performances from more than 30 artists, according to the concert's website. These include huge names in Latin America, like Colombian musical legends Carlos Vives, Jones, and reggaeton singer Maluma, all three of whom collaborated with pop star Shakira in the past. So this, all these headliners are people who have did a thing with Shakira once. Swedish DJ Alesso is also in the lineup alongside Mexican rock band Mana, who have won several Latin Grammys and 4 Grammys, and Spanish singer and songwriter Alejandro Sanz. So a load of people I've never heard of, and probably you have either. So Venezuelan opposition leader Guaido, who's involved in a constitution provision last month to declare himself acting president, has been working with a raft of global partners, including the United States. Raft of global partners, including the United States. It's basically 3 countries, I think, to bring aid into the country. Maduro has repeatedly refused assistance, leaving aid languishing on the border despite growing shortages. The way CNN frame this is obviously nonsense. I mean, even the picture they put there, look at that. It's like, oh my God, they closed down the border. No, that picture, that road there, it's never been opened. That picture that they say it's never been opened. Richard Branson here, whether he's, somebody who is just a dumbass and can't see what is fact from fiction, and he gets, just lied to into these things, I don't know. What you've got to understand, Richard, is however bad you think this Venezuelan aid crisis is, it's made worse by the United States. They don't help. They really don't. In fact, they're the ones who've orchestrated it all along with our help. Let me just take you over to here. This is from Sputnik, all right? Yeah, I know it's Russian, but it's factual. Just look at this. This is a list of all the sanctions. US imposed sanctions against Venezuela are part of a bipartisan campaign to obstruct the Latin American nation's independence, both financially and politically, and have grown into a full economic blockade, according to a list of actions and executive orders documented by Caracas. Just want to give you a scroll down. Look at this. This is the sanctions put on Venezuela since 2014. This is not just Trump. Okay, I want to make sure that my audience understand this. It's not just Trump. It's America. It's their foreign policy. It doesn't matter who's there. Trump, Obama, Bush, Clinton, Bush Senior, Reagan. It doesn't matter. This carries on regardless. Look at these sanctions. 2014, pretext of crashing down on protesters. The US Congress passes Public Law 113-78. 8th of March 2015, Executive Order 13692. July 2016, stops issuing foreign currency accounts to Venezuelan institutions. August 2016, suspended 1.2 billion in funds transferred by the US in February. That was us, by the way, the United Kingdom. That's that 1.2 billion in gold that we are refusing to give them back. September 2016, the Venezuelan government agrees to exchange 7.1 billion in USD into PVD. Look at the sanctions. Just look at this list. I don't need to read them all out. Look at them. Just look at the list as I'm scrolling down. This is the list of sanctions that have been put on Venezuela whilst they are in the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world. Do you think that this has helped or hindered? Well, you don't need to think. I'll tell you right now. It's caused the death of thousands of people. Actually, 40,000 people since 2015. And this is a report, by the way. Sorry, economist, I'm going to say your name is Mark Weisbrot, just because if I'm going to butcher it, might as well do it properly. But this is also with Jeffrey Sachs, who once went on MSNBC and had a conversation about Operation Timber Sycamore. And I don't think he's been invited back, but there's sanctions that I've just shown you. This list. Jeffrey Sachs, The Economists, and his buddy Weisbrot. 40,000 Venezuelans have died as a result of these sanctions. If Maduro and Venezuela had put these, killed 40,000 of their own people, our media would be going apoplectic right now. But they've been almost silent on this. Reuters actually suppressed this report for a month, probably to allow more time to try and get the Americans to get Juan Guaido in. Why am I bringing all this up there? Well, I'm bringing all this up because this is from the Grey Zone recently. From coup leaders to con artists, Juan Guaido's gang exposed for massive humanitarian aid fraud. It's led to this. All the money that was gone to them from this concert that Richard Branson set up, we don't know where it is. Don't know where it is. He's done this live aid. Nobody knows where the money's gone. Juan Guaido looks like him and his cronies have just had it. Virgin have had to, Richard Branson of Virgin, release a statement. From Virgin Group, we want to establish a position in relation to the funds raised in the Venezuela Aid live concert held on February the 22nd, 2019. So they've had the funds, where have they gone? In the last few hours, officials of the administration of the government of Venezuela President Juan Guaido. Really? Are you still saying the government of Venezuelan President Juan Guaido? You're still saying that even though they took the money you raised and buggered off? And give it all their mates? You're still saying Venezuelan government, Branson? You gutless, spineless shit? Have been involved in corruption schemes for which we are not responsible or have any connection. Corruption! Since the idea of a mass call to demand freedom and democracy in Venezuela arose, our commitment was for everyone to come together for its cause and contribute a grain of sand to help people that is not going through the worst crisis in their history. The worst crisis in their history that America are actually putting them in and making worse. You bearded twat. But what is collected there and the use of those resources were given is not our competence. We were only a platform. So we repudiate anyone who has tried to enrich themselves in the name of hunger and the disease of people needed. Venezuela needs answers for what we put at the disposal of the international authorities to collaborate in what they need to get to the bottom of this painful episode. No, Venezuela doesn't need answers. You need to stop being a twat. Anybody with a brain could see what was going on here. And you have either been hoodwinked into one of the biggest scams I've ever seen. Come on. Or you're a complete idiot. Which one is it, Branson? Needs answers. Needs answers. Venezuela needs answers. Well, Richard Branson needs answers. And I'll tell you this, that money's gone missing and you raised that money and that money went missing completely because you're an out-of-touch twat of a billionaire. That's what it is. Who doesn't know his arse from his elbow. I want to end on somebody who does though. I want to end on somebody, I want to talk about somebody here who really does know what's going on, especially in Venezuela. But not just in Venezuela, in other places as well. Because there's somebody in our government, actually, not in our government, in the House of Commons, who was absolutely spot on with this. An MP who got this right from the very beginning. He was even in Mohammed El-Matsi's article that I quoted at the beginning of this segment. Because Mohammed El-Matsi put it in, because I'm going to give you a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Oh, that's the wrong one. To when Chris Williamson, MP for Derby North, suspended by the Labour Party for a fake anti-Semitism claim. He said this at the time. He said this on 23rd of February, so the day after. Britain is offering aid to Venezuela while withholding 1.2 billion of gold. Like I said at the beginning, we withheld their money because, hey, Juan Guaido is president now. Why? Trump said so. Britain is offering aid to Venezuela while withholding 1.2 billion of gold. America does the same while enforcing ruinous sanctions. Now, Richard Branson holds a Venezuela aid concert at the border. This is a coup. Venezuelans need the economic warfare to end. I'm going to play you this.
What the?
I'm going to play you this by Chris Williamson. I'm going to play it's 1 minute and 24 seconds. This is what he said at the time when Branson was arranging this concert. Enjoy.
What the hell's going on with the media in this country? While simultaneously lambasting Venezuela for rejecting US aid, they're ignoring the fact that we're withholding over £1 billion of their money. Maybe we should start there. Give Venezuela back what's theirs.
Well, the British government's whole position is simply acting as Donald Trump's poodle cannot be allowed to stand.
And that's while our government, as well as the United States, says they want to avert a humanitarian crisis. Remarkably, the actual gold in question was mined in Venezuela. The conquistadors stole South America.
I'm going to go back and play that again. I know people get pissed off when I do this, but you know what? I'm going to remind people of that. This gold that Britain is still withholding, £1.2 billion on it still, came from Venezuela in the first place.
Remarkably, the actual gold in question was mined in Venezuela. The conquistadors stole South America's gold for centuries. Now we do the same, only under the guise of democracy and liberty. And maybe you saw the block bridge across the media. It was on the BBC, CNN and ABC. Even the Minister of State, Alan Duncan, tweeted it out. It's never been used. How can you demand someone reopen something when it's never been open in the first place? The coverage of Venezuela has been shaped by mistruth, concealment and outright bias. How can anyone take Britain seriously when we talk about a humanitarian crisis, yet we're stealing money from the very country beset by those problems?
Chris Williamson, take a bow. You were right, 100% right. And Richard Branson, yeah, he was bloody wrong. He was bloody wrong.